Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Sunday. Happy Christmas Eve to everybody. It's Daryl here. It is bright and freaking early, man. You know it. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, as I was going through the stories this morning, I noticed a repeating tendency, a repeating trend, a repeating narrative to blame Democrats. And you know what? This is what I was going to say is Republicans blaming Democrats for instead of looking at the big picture to solve a problem. And honestly, I'm sure when Republicans are in power, we have a Republican president. Democrats do that to some extent too. But I have two stories in particular here. They're just ridiculous. They're not even true. They're just extrapolations and exaggerations and downright lies. One says that Joe Biden is going to take away your Christmas tree next year. And I'll use it for it actually says that. It actually says Joe Biden is going to do away with your Christmas tree next year. And it's completely, once you read the article, and this is a totally right. It's the Washington Examiner, which is hardcore right-leaning. And if you just take the time to actually read their article, it has absolutely nothing to do with any Christmas trees. Nothing. And again, it's just to fire people, get people all upset. The second story is about the Army. And it's an extrapolation as to why the Army, the armed services are like 41,000 people short of their recruiting goals in 2023, I think it was, or 2022, last year or two. They're very short. And Fox News kind of makes up a scenario as to why people aren't going in the Army. And I think instead of looking at the big picture, it's just easier to point a finger and say it's their fault. Just yesterday, I was going through Facebook, and there was I'm one of these groups, the Connecticut group, and it says, what does Connecticut have that other states don't have? And I think I said Long Island Sound, which is true. But I saw the picture. It was a young guy, a young Republican guy. And he says, lazy Democrats that don't work, right? And that made me angry. And here's the thing that I started to think about. Connecticut has always been one of the wealthiest states in the nation. It's probably in the top three now. It bounces between 1, 2, or 3. Between Massachusetts, usually Massachusetts, Hawaii, and Connecticut and New Jersey are the richest, the wealthiest states in the country. And I started to think about that. People certainly don't retire here, so it's not like retirement wealth or generational wealth like in Florida. So if this state is still so full of Democrats that are lazy and not working, then how is it possible that it's one of the wealthiest states in the country? How is that even possible? And if you actually look at the numbers, the most people that are unemployed, they're on assistance, we'll call it assistance, are red states in the South. I mean, just Google it. Okay, so here's the thing. I started thinking about there's lots of immigration towards the southern border. They're talking about 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 people a week or a day. It's something insane. And I see the Republicans blaming Joe Biden. Joe Biden's telling them to come on in. We have open borders. And that isn't true. It's really not true. If you look at the stories yesterday, you see that they're holding people back. They're giving them dates. They're so backed up it's an untenable situation. And if you got to look at the big picture here, why are they coming here? As long as these people are coming here, there's going to be a problem no matter how big a wall you build, no matter what kind of barbed wire or how high the wall you build is, there's going to be a huge problem as long as people continue to leave their countries in the South to come here to get a better life. I mean, it's part of the way of us using those countries for our illicit drug needs, really. For us neglecting those countries and basically using them to fuel our illicit drug needs here. And that's the main reason these people are leaving their own countries. That's the big picture here. It's not Joe Biden saying, come on in, come on. It's really not. It's not. He's telling, the people in charge are saying, do not come here. We do not, America is not open. and they still keep coming. As long as people keep coming here, that's the problem. The problem isn't what happens right at the border. The problem is the people leaving their countries. That's the big picture, right? Does it make sense? Okay, now let's go to the Army. I read that this story is right down below. It's on Fox News, and it talks about how the Army, the Generation Z, just is not signing up. They're not feeling patriotic, as Fox puts it. And they blame Democrats for this. They blame Democrats. They say that they're making people, that mainly, this is what it says in the article below. It says that the people that join the Army are mainly from the red states. It actually says this. The people from the red states are the ones that toil and sweat and give blood for our country in general. So they're pulling the red states are pulling all the weight and fighting for our country, and the blue states are just sitting back and denigrating, making up our history and making our history look bad and making us look like a bunch of people that are hurting people and enslaving people, which is the truth. But the part about the red states being the ones working the hardest and joining the Army is just total bull. They actually use, there's actually a quote down below where it says that Democrats are making these Generation Zers hate themselves, so they won't join the Army. And I thought about this. I've talked about this before, and part of me feels bad about this. When I see these advertisements for DAV, Disabled American Vets, okay, and these guys are missing arms and legs. And I don't feel, when I see these people going up and they say, you lost your arm and your leg for my freedom. You fought for my right to work here and drive down the street and get a Christmas tree and all this. You lost your leg and your arm for this. And I think to myself, that's a freaking lie. I'm not mad at these people. I think these people fell for this. If you look at Afghanistan, if you look at Iraq, look what happened in Iraq. 9/11 happened here, right? And all of a sudden, what do? What does George Bush do? He attacks Iraq right after, which had nothing to do with 9/11. Why would you attack Iraq? Because of, what was it called? The major weapons, what do they call it? The big weapons, gas and all that. And nothing was found. It was nothing. And we ended up leaving Iraq worse than we found it, killing people, leaving it just a mess. Iraq, same situation. How many billions or trillions of dollars? How many legs and arms of service members were left there? For what? And the Taliban and Donald Trump just gave it back to the Taliban. Donald Trump is the one that made the deal with the Taliban. So that he makes the deal, Joe Biden has to follow through, airlifts everybody out, and everybody blames Joe Biden for it. And Generation Z sees this and sees that people, it's all a lie. It's all, we're fighting for money, for billionaires, for other people's egos, giving up arms and legs. Were they fighting for our freedom? Seriously, in Iraq, were they fighting for our freedom, for our Christmas trees, for our right to work here or drive there? No. Were they doing that in Afghanistan? Were they fighting for my freedom in Afghanistan? That's a lie. That's bull. That's rhetoric. Nonsense. It's patriotic garbage rhetoric. They're dying for egos and for perceptions of who's bad and who's good and nonsense. And I think Generation Z sees that, and they're not joining. It's common sense. It's not because the Democrats are saying bad things about Americans. No, Generation Z has woken up and smelled the coffee and sees. I hate when these guys say, thank you for fighting for our freedom to keep me free. You didn't fight to keep me free. If you didn't go to Afghanistan, would I have been any less free? I think it makes us, a lot of times it makes us more susceptible because we go over there and we invade a country, we take it over. The 5-year-old kid sees the American soldiers kicking down doors, throwing their mother around. They hate the United States. They grew up to hate the United States. And next we have another 9/11 in 10 years when that kid grows up. You know, are we doing any good over there? Is it keeping us safe? I don't know. Maybe for a couple of years, but when that kid grows up, he's gonna freaking hate U.S. soldiers. You know, and for what? Is it for my freedom? No. All right. Okay. Now on to the Christmas trees. This is ridiculous. Washington Examiner. So the headline says Joe Biden is taking away your Christmas trees next year. And it has to do with old growth trees and climate change. Okay, the perception is there's the people, I'm a tree hugger, and I realize you have to balance forestry. You know, you have to thin the forest to prevent forest fires or create controlled burns. But there is, with climate change, we're going to have to change our thinking a little bit, because a lot of these old growth trees, they're dangerous for out of control forest fires, but they also hold huge amounts of carbon. They take huge amounts of carbon dioxide out of the air, out of the atmosphere. They're scrubbers, you know. So I think it's got to be a balanced system here, you know. And so this is what they're saying. This whole article has nothing to do with any Christmas tree. The Christmas tree isn't even mentioned anywhere in this whole article. But the title to this article is Joe Biden's taking away your Christmas tree next year. You know, so Joe MAGA sees this. Joe Biden, you know, next year we're not going to have Christmas trees because these tree huggers. You know, and they don't even take the time to read the article. The article doesn't even say a word about Christmas. You know, and again, instead of looking at this, trying to find a solution where we can slow down climate change and keep these scrubbers, these large growth, old growth trees to scrub, because we're going to die. The whole earth is going. Let's face it. And that's the thing. Republicans think it's nonsense. They think that climate change isn't happening. It's a lie and all this other stuff. And they refuse. You know, it's an inability to even care or to admit what's the big picture is. With all these stories, with the army, with the Christmas trees, with supposedly lazy Democrats in Connecticut, it's just pointing fingers at somebody instead of looking at the big picture and trying to find a viable solution. All right, and I think both sides do it. I think the other side is Republicans are just doing it now because Joe Biden is in power, is the president. All right, let me know what you think. The links will be down below. I'll be back later with another video. You guys have a great Christmas Eve.